Good afternoon. My name is Adam Olsen. I am the MLA for Saanich North and the Islands. And this is episode number 23 of the Public Circle Live. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And thank you for watching the replay if you're not joining us this afternoon, but you're watching the replay. I am here today with Barb Whittington, and we're going to be talking about Ravens Cohousing, Ravens Crossing Cohousing. And as you can see, I'm wearing their very nice, beautiful new t-shirt. You're going to learn a lot about Ravens Crossing. You're also going to learn a lot about Barb Whittington. You're also going to learn a little bit about cohousing, maybe a lot about cohousing. And I'll tell you the reason why. I'll start this off with putting some context around why it is that I've invited Barb into the Public Circle studio today to talk about this housing project in Sidney. Over the last number of months, and starting in the election actually, Barb, one of the issues that continued to show up at the door every time that we knock on the door in the campaign, housing. I'm writing a piece right now about the housing issues that continue to persist in British Columbia. They're not happy stories. They are sad stories. They are stories about people not able to get housing, people not able to be housed or get safe, affordable, accessible housing. And now that I'm an elected official, I'm dealing with this even more. But it's more acute for me because I have to make policy. We have to actually solve the problems, and it's becoming more and more difficult.
Yes.
Well, you came in to my office and had a meeting about your co-housing project. It's not the first time that I had heard about it. And I said, you know what, I'd like to feature this. We're going to do a community dialogue in September about housing, another one, a redux. Second time we'll have talked about it at a community dialogue level. And so I said, will you come in and can we talk about this project? And you accepted. So thank you for being here.
You're
Barb
welcome.
Whittington. Now, who's Barb Whittington? Can you tell me a little? Can you tell me and the viewers? We've got Kathy joining us about who you are.
Well, I've known you, Adam, for quite a long time.
That's true.
Since you went to school with one of my sons. So,
Hi, Luke.
My eldest son.
That's right.
I have three boys, and they grew up alongside their mom, who had a lot of growing up to do, on West Saanich Road. So
Up on the rock.
Oh yeah,
actually.
I'm on the rock. I'm
That's
on the
right.
rock. Yeah, life on the rocks. But it was lovely to grow up there, and talk about a place that makes you grateful for being able to be there. I mean, we don't need curtains. We have an outdoor shower. It's just beautiful. And the first thing you can do when you get up is go outside. Now, when you talk about what other people have, that's not what they have. And my background is growing up in a small town,
Right.
where I got to go around with my dad and be, if I was invited, I could go into different people's homes. If I wasn't invited, I waited in the car. And it was very interesting because I started going with him he was a physician in a small town when I was 5. And the homes that always came out to the car to invite me in were the Indigenous First Nations homes. And the homes that were less likely to invite me in had the color of skin of me. Anyway, I guess my education started then, and my dad died very young, and the ceremony was full of Indigenous people. And I only learned really later on that was because there was a mutual respect. And I guess I should have known by my dad saying, you wait in the car till you see, till you're invited. So I've been interested in community since I was born into one.
Cool. Well, so you and a couple of your friends came in to talk to me and my staff about the co-housing project.
Right.
And people are probably, if they're not familiar with it, probably going, what is he going on about? What are they going on about around this co-housing? You have a beautiful home, as you pointed out. It's a great home. You're now looking to downsize, move out of that home. Your grandkids don't like it, from what I hear, don't like that idea. But
they don't like the idea of me moving.
that's right. That's what I mean. Grandma's not going to move out of the
No.
house on the hill. But you've got a novel project that you came to tell us about, Ravens Crossing Cohousing. What is cohousing?
So cohousing would best be described as intentional community.
Okay.
There's many versions of it, and hopefully I hope we can talk about your own experience where you live. But I first got introduced to it through Denmark, through Danish connections. And in Denmark, it was young families that started co-housing. They said, we can't be living separate when we're trying to raise our children.
Right.
And many people, their families live away. They don't always live close to each other in North American culture and in Denmark. So they started a co-housing model where they would share, they'd have huge common spaces, but they'd all have their individual places. And they would share meals, they would share childcare, they would share ups and downs of life. And it's been extremely popular in Denmark and in other places in Europe, brought to North America by two architects who went to Denmark. And then they started running different programs and courses to teach people in North America about co-housing. I didn't know anything about them. I knew about the Denmark part. And I'd been looking around for how to begin an intentional community when I crossed paths with Tracy Mills, who was a little bit further down the path on the peninsula of trying to create a co-housing community on the peninsula. So then she and I together, and various people came and added ideas and left for various reasons. I think we're really lucky because we're past the tea party stage.
Right.
Where everybody says, oh, my friends and I talked about that. We'd like to do that. Apparently about 95% of those kinds of conversations end up going nowhere. But we have now selected a community in Sidney, and we have some land. And we now are working with an architect. We hope to have up to 34 homes. So you're trying to live on a smaller footprint, live more sustainably, live where it's walkable, live where you can live with intent, multi-age, multi-generations, and kind of the best of what maybe a small town would be.
In one building.
In one, one building.
Yeah, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be one building.
No,
just
it
has
can
to
be separate
within
buildings. Some are duplexes, townhouses. There's Harborside in Saanich is a developed co-housing community. It's for seniors. Then there's Pacific Gardens in Nanaimo and Creekside in Courtenay-Comox area. And there's two in development in the Lower Island. One is ours, Ravens Crossing Cohousing, and the other is another one out in Saanich.
So you can check out the website. Are your plans on your website?
No, because we haven't finished making them.
Right.
We've got to
so
be
we've just seen some very high technical. The ones that you brought into my office were technical drawings, right?
Yeah,
They're
that's
really
right.
But check out the website, Ravens Crossing Cohousing.ca. I'll drop the link in to the description below, and you'll be able to go check it out. And as the plans come on, but the plans that I saw were basically it looked like a condo development.
Ours is shaped like a raven.
Right.
So we have a center part, the raven's body, heart, beak, that formidable beak.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the common areas are in that part. And then there's kind of a west wing.
Right.
And that has 4 stories of different size places, some quite small. Well, not small to those people, but 750 square feet up to 1,200 square feet. On the other side of the other wing of the Raven is a number of townhouses.
Right.
That are, for a little bit bigger because you need a certain number for families who need a bit bigger size. But it's the multi-age part of it that I'm so excited about.
And I guess the difference between what you're proposing as a co-housing and the difference between a co-housing and just like a strata condo is that there's a level of commitment amongst the people that are in the building to live together.
Yes.
To prepare food together, to communicate with each other, to
settle differences,
to agree and disagree, and to disagree without being disagreeable, as Elizabeth May
I like
says.
that.
But there's a commitment to live collectively.
Yes, there is, and there's a commitment to respect each other's privacy.
Right.
And yet to have that kind of social support when you want it and need it. And for children, it's just remarkable. There's a young woman wrote a letter recently. She's 21, and she was trying to support a new co-housing development in North Van. And she said she grew up in a co-housing community with her single mom. And she thought she had sisters because the other people the other girls there, they grew up all together and played all together. And she just said it was remarkable to learn how to work together and to sort through things together. And it was a beautiful, beautiful letter. And she gave us permission to post it on our website. So,
you know, our neighborhoods and people living come and go in our neighborhoods, and we just had some turnover in our neighborhood recently. They're less connected than they were when I was a kid. The houses are very much separate from one another, and like you said earlier, we don't have a lot of family living around us.
Some don't.
Or with us anymore.
You're fortunate.
That's right. And
yeah.
Maybe we can get into what captured me about the co-housing. I grew up on, I still live on Sartlip First Nation, and I live in the backyard of the property that I grew up on.
Yeah.
My sister lives in the house that we grew up in, the family home. We've got another little cabin that is a rental that right now my niece and I guess she's my first cousin once removed, but she's my cousin.
Oh, your cousin.
Lives there. Yeah. It's all family, and we look after each other. We live together. It is an intentional community. And, when I was just talking when you came in about the fact that my sister and I, we're both in politics, and it's a lot of energy, let's just call it. But there's this level of responsibility that we have that if we get into it, that we've got to get out of it.
Yes.
Right? And we've got to live together. We live together. And there's tensions, then they get worked out.
It's
and
real.
Same thing's going to happen.
That's life. You're not going to love every person, but you could care for every person.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I just made that up.
Well done.
Do you like that?
You should put it on. There's all these cards with some stuff. You got to put that on. You got to put that on a card. But one of the things that's important about let's talk about the kids, because you've got grandkids.
Yes, I have 7.
7 grandkids.
Yes.
Right, and we've got kids. I've got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, and people that watch this, they know my kids. I put them out there. But anyway,
relentlessly uses them for public purposes.
No, that's not true. But it's important that people know that I've got a family, and that's part of the narrative of who I am, right? But on the property that we live, there are 5 kids, and they all kind of interweave with each other.
Yeah. And
they're all brothers and sisters. Although they're first cousins, they're all brothers and sisters. And so there's this aspect of it, like you were talking about in the letter, that, whether it's my brother-in-law or Nick or my sister Joni or my wife Emily or me, there's adults and then there's the kids, and they're all I look at those kids, they're all my kids.
Yes.
And I think that Nick and Joni look at my kids and go, those are kind of my other son and daughter.
And you care for them. If you see them hurt, you would pick them up and cuddle them. Or if you see them doing something that's going to get them in trouble, you wouldn't just turn away. You would say, yeah.
But what does it mean to you to have a multi-generational community to move into as your kids don't live with you, your grandkids don't live with you, but to
they're
have
there
those,
a lot. They almost do.
to have those kids around you.
Well, to me, it's just the way it should be. Right. I mean, the way it works, and we're helpful to each other. And when my older granddaughter said, "But Nana, why would you leave paradise on West Saanich?" And I said, "Well, we're trying to make a paradise." And she nodded and she said, "And we will." She didn't say you will. She said, "And we will, Nana." Right. Yeah.
So she sees herself as being part of this community.
And she will be part of it. Yeah. Right. And she's the eldest of this whole parcel. So, she said, I said, "I hope everybody will still come and feel happy there." And she said, "Well, we'll make new memories there." So I think she's got the feeling of it. I think she's also thinking, oh, good. There's going to be some other kids that are my age.
Right.
I might not have to just look after my brothers. I may be able to hang out with
Right.
somebody else. So it means everything to me. And I grew up with, there's 11 of us from Port Alberni that were called the Valley Girls.
Right.
And we are like sisters to each other. And we've been through the bad times together and the good times together. And if I'm going on about something, which apparently I do sometimes, they'll say, BS, Barb, because they know me through my whole life. It's like a sibling.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really important to me. And in my family, I had 2 brothers. One died as a baby, like at 1, and my brother was killed at 18.
Oh my goodness.
So I know what it means to go through losses, and I know what it means to gather people around you that can be like family.
Right.
And I just think we know that's what makes for healthy living.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so clear that is what, it's not just how many miles you run on the treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
It's, do you have social connections? Right. Do you actually help other people? Are you able to receive help?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what makes people healthy and strong.
That's it's beautiful. And you know what's interesting is I got elected last May, and the narrative was around housing. The narrative was also around childcare, and there's this feeling in this hollowing out in our society right now that I've been exploring as the MLA, and it's been right in front of me for the last number of months, where our housing is out of reach for people. Families are largely separated, like the kids and the grandparents and the grandkids, and so we're paying astronomical rates for housing.
Yeah,
we're also paying astronomical rates for childcare.
Terrible.
In this situation, there's arrangements that can be worked out
where
very much
the
childcare, the kids come home from school, and it's right across the street from Sidney Elementary. I'll point that out, where you've purchased. But there could be, there's relationships that can be formed to say, I don't need childcare, I don't need after school care, because Barb's here and we have an arrangement that on 2 days a week she's there kids to welcome the kids back.
Yes, and I think like one of our household members, we tend to call them households because you might be a single person in a house or you might be a family of 5. But one of our household members has said flat out they would like to do after school care. And, and I've heard it more than once. I know they mean it. And later today, I wanted to see what the view is like and what the view might be like from where our place is, because at the most it will be 4 stories. And so I went walking around our local travel lodge, talking to people there to see if I could see out the windows, and I just told them what I was about. Anyway, I ran into a woman who rents in Sidney. The rent is astronomical. She has 2 kids, and she says, we'll never be able to buy in Sidney.
Right.
And I said, well, I don't want to get on my hobby horse here, but I'll explain this, and then you can be glad when I leave. And she got involved in this conversation with me, and she said, that would be less expensive for us to live there in co-housing with our kids and have the potential to have a less expensive after-school care, because her daughter goes to school at Sidney Elementary. And I said, well, consider it.
Right.
Yeah. And she said, well, I never have heard of this before. It was really like an exciting conversation.
So if you work in Sidney or around Sidney on the Saanich Peninsula, if your kids go to school on the Saanich Peninsula, or if you're retiring on the Saanich Peninsula, the property that you've purchased, that the group has purchased so far, how many members are there at this point?
There's 13 what we call equity members that have put their money in the pot, which is $30,000.
Right.
And then, but you can come and snoop around for $125 for 3 months and look at our books and look at us. Yep. And look at yourself, which is probably the most important. Right. Because co-housing isn't for everybody. Right. Because we work by consensus. Mm-hmm. So you have to be willing to put the time in. You won't be able to just complain like people do with strata titles. You're in on it or don't bitch.
Well, you're committed in,
Yeah.
but you're also, like I said, you're full in.
Well, we
So
want your voice.
You have to
Yeah.
actually be committed to working
Yeah.
your way out of that situation and not just walking away with
No.
your hands up saying, well, we agree to disagree and off we go.
I mean, and people may do that, but they may choose to come to co-housing, but then you can sell your household. Like, it's a straight up strata title. You can sell it and you can
Right.
buy one. And people say, well, how, when somebody comes in, how do you know they'll be co-housing material? And my experience comes from all the other places that have gone before us, and they have a list of interested people,
Right.
like in the hundreds.
Right.
And so they've never had to have a household on the market because they just contact people who've expressed interest, see if there's, come and snoop around, see if you like it.
Well, people say to me, they say, how do you live so close to your sister and your brother-in-law and their kids and your niece and your cousin? Like, how do you guys live, and your brother?
How do you?
Joanne? Very easily, in fact. You know what's interesting about it is that there's this perception that we're always in each other's business. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, I have to go out of my way in order to run into my brother who lives on the second floor above my sister's house. I go over, like there can be times, there can be weeks where I'm like, well, I haven't seen him in a long time. I should go and say hi.
If you needed him, could
there.
you find him?
100%.
Yeah.
Always.
In the middle of the night, could you call him?
And he could call us.
Yeah.
And so there is this perception. And in fact, when we were sitting in our at a friend's house having a barbecue with them, we were acknowledging that their neighbors are actually a lot closer physically to them in a standard neighborhood than we are to my sister and my brother.
Yeah, on the Sartla person.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So the thing is I think that there's this perception in our society that you're never going to be able to get away. But you create your own space.
Yeah.
And you live in your space, but you also have this shared space as well. And you learn how to create your boundaries and to respect other people's boundaries as well.
Yes, and you do learn, even in this process, we've been through it for the last 2.5 years. I thought I knew a lot about myself. Maybe I did. But I have had to learn so much more. And guess what one of the things is I had to learn? I'm not in charge.
Right.
Because this is a group effort and a group project. I'm one voice. So, for example, we were looking at Brentwood, we were looking at Saanich, we were looking at Sidney. I wanted our co-housing community to be in Brentwood.
For obvious...
Because I love
For
Brentwood.
obvious
yes,
reasons.
because
those
we
of
have
us...
wonderful people. Anyway, when it came down to who chose what, guess what? It wasn't going to be in Brentwood.
Sydney's a good choice.
Oh, I mean, is Paradise 1 or Paradise 2? But I just, that's an example of you have to compromise.
Right.
And so it's good learning.
Right.
It's good learning.
Okay, so let's get into some of the details. You are in Sidney, right across the street from
Sidney Elementary. Where we were this morning for a pancake breakfast.
Right.
That is sponsored at the last Friday in August by a local accounting firm that sponsors it. Yeah, so we're very near, we're between Rest Haven and 7th Avenue.
Right.
And the cross street is Breather,
okay,
which is the name of the family who donated land, which they got from other people.
Right.
Donated land to the city of Sidney to start the city.
Right.
The Breather family. So recently I had an opportunity to meet Mrs. Breather, and she was married to Sluggett. Right. So 2 farming families.
Oh, from Brentwood.
Yes.
From Central
Yes. And so she said it was endlessly exciting relationship where they could talk about families and the peninsula. But it's just a great location. Like we would be 2 minutes to walk to the grocery store.
Yeah, so you're 3 blocks from that Thrifties or from Beacon Avenue, let's just say.
Yeah. And my son and I walked to the beach to time it. Right. And it was 5 minutes to the beach.
Right.
Near the airport, near the ferry, but
near
not...
buses?
Yeah, really good access to buses. We're going to have a car share at our cohousing.
So this was another point that I was actually
Yeah.
getting to earlier, is that if you live and have kids or you're retired, you actually don't need to have a vehicle either,
No.
which will make life even that much more
No.
affordable.
No, and if we're part of a car share or a truck share or a van share, you
Right.
can use that. I mean, that'll be a tough one for me because I do love my vehicles, so I'm gonna have to grow up. But the affordability comes from it's market rates to get into cohousing.
Right.
But there's also rentals are allowed, so people might rent and live there. But once you're in, the expenses apparently from the people who've lived in cohousing are unbelievably less expensive.
You're sharing as a community.
Yeah, and also your hydro, because we put all the money, there's no developer fees. So we put it into things like excellent insulation, or we have solar capability on the roof. We have a rooftop garden. And
Nice.
hey, it's going to be cool.
I think that's an important point, though, is that there's a profit margin that a developer would expect
Yes.
out of this. As you're developing your intentional community as a group,
Yes.
you're not building that profit into it. So you're building is the cost. The people who build
Yeah.
get paid their
And they're all going to live there.
share.
So they want it to be well built.
That's right.
And they have we talk about having a vested interest. You have an emotional interest, a philosophical interest, and a financial interest.
So there are families, there are actually young people in Germany right now. I read an article that they came together, brought all of their equity that they had together, built a condo building with no developer in the mix,
very
and
similar.
they didn't have, they strated it, and it wasn't a co-housing scenario, but it was a similar thing where people got together and decided, we're just going to build our own building.
Yeah.
They hired an architect. The architect was basically oversaw the development, and it was another way to keep the cost of that development down.
That's excellent, Adam.
So if somebody is watching this and they think, I'd like to check out co-housing,
Right?
they would start at the website.
Yeah, that would be one place to start. The website's pretty accessible.
Ravens Crossing Cohousing.ca.
Yep. And then we have information sessions every month.
So plug that. There's one coming up.
Okay. The next information session will be on Saturday, the 8th of September from 4:30 to 6. It's free of charge, and it's held at McTavish Academy of Art.
I know that place
which is
well.
the coolest place.
They're
wonderful guys.
Yeah, they Sean,
Yeah.
Sean and Lucas.
Yay, Sean and Lucas.
They're our buddies. Yeah, they're our friends.
Shout out.
So information session 4:30 to 6, Saturday, September the 8th. If you're watching this video after that,
There'll be another one.
there's going to be another one, and you just go to Ravens Crossing Cohousing.ca to see the future dates of information sessions. Now, you're also hosting an event at the Mary Winspear Center. So
Yes.
talk a little bit about that. September 29th.
So my career, where I got the wherewithal to raise my 3 boys on my own, was by being a prof at the University of Victoria. And so they contacted me recently to say, would I do a workshop, or they have a thing called UVic on the Peninsula.
Right.
So to ask me if I would do that, and I said yes. They were asking me to do one on restorative justice. So I said, yes, I will. And what about this idea about co-housing? And they got so excited about that idea. And so it's going to be held on Saturday, September 29th.
Right.
From 10:30 to 12:30. Kids are welcome. We'll have a table set up so kids can hang out there. We don't care if they make noise. We like the more noise, the better. And it's going to be called Why Not Cohousing? And so it won't be specifically about Ravens Crossing Cohousing. It'll be about what is cohousing, what is it locally, what is it internationally, and then a little bit about the local cohousing communities. So it's more of a broad brush about this is what cohousing is through the ages.
Right. So one of the reasons why, and I'll just reiterate, the reasons why I wanted to talk about co-housing today is it has been overwhelming, and I'll have a piece published fairly shortly about the experience that I've had over the last number of months dealing with the the extraordinary housing challenges in our society right now in British Columbia. Frankly, we inherited a mess. That mess is not going to be an easy one to clean up. There's been tons and tons of, simple solutions around. And, if it's a simple solution,
It's wrong.
Probably not. That's right. So there's been lots of simple solutions. We just need to keep building supply. Of course, if the market rates will just keep up, So that's not the solution. Then there's those that just say, it's a demand side issue. You just need to tax, or socialize the thing. Of course, you go too far that way and it creates problems.
Yeah.
There's got to be this uncomfortable mix where we deal with supply side issues, and this is one example, and some demand side issues, which also has its discomfort because
Yes.
people who've invested are now gonna feel that. People with multiple properties feel that. So it has been one of the biggest challenges of my life, dealing with figuring a way through. And this coming fall, when the session comes back in, we're going to be dealing with some very, very real housing solutions and challenges, and it's gonna be emotional.
It is emotional.
For people. And I wanted to have this conversation on the Public Circle because I wanted to show that there are some really cool ideas out there.
There are.
And people who are taking the housing solutions for themselves into their own hands, and at the same time building community, which has always been something that I wanted to be a major part of my time here as the MLA.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming in and
You're
sharing.
welcome. There's also going to be a thing at the Star about affordability.
Okay, well then hit me with that. What is that?
Okay, I'll get you the actual date, but they're hosting at the Star Cinema a thing about affordability and housing. And there's 4 speakers. I'll be one of them to talk about co-housing as an option. Affordable housing in Victoria,
Mellowship?
Will be one of the speakers, and then another speaker, because we have to be creative.
We do.
Yeah, that's what we have to all talk about it together.
Absolutely. So thank you very much
You're welcome.
for coming in. It was wonderful to see you, Barb, again. And it's say hi to Luke
I will.
for me. Maybe he's even watching his mom, the Star.
He
now.
has 4 little kids.
Well,
He's not watching.
he's twice as busy as I am then. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you very much if you're watching this after the fact, for watching the rebroadcast of this. One final plug, an info session about Ravens Crossing Cohousing on September the 8th at the McTavish Academy of Art. It's from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Make sure you bring your kids, because kids are welcome in all parts of our society. As well, Barb will be doing a session at UVic on the peninsula on September the 29th from 10:30 to 12:30. It's called Why Not Cohousing. Cohousing is just one example of people taking their housing solutions into their own hands. And I am so grateful that it has come to the Saanich Peninsula, come to Saanich North and the Islands. Certainly go to the website ravenscrossingcohousing.ca to check out more information about the cool project that's happening here. And I challenge other people in the riding, check it out. It's a cool model. It's a cool way. I live in a co-housing situation. It's not as scary or as weird as it may sound. It's actually something that I think that you'll find enriches life.
It's answer to your good health.
It enriches your life, living close to people and having people around.
Yeah.
And if you need that hug, you can go get one. If you need some space, you can carve that out as well. So thanks a lot, Barb, for joining us.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. I'll drop those links and the dates and stuff in the comment section below. So I will be back next week, same time, same place, Facebook, 4:30 p.m. on Friday. Look forward to seeing you then. Until then, as I always say, haekwa.
Aw.